Hello class, Mr. Geisler here today, and we're going to talk about solving one-step equations. The big thing idea today is to do what's called inverse operations. To invert means to do the opposite. So let's think about what the opposite of adding. The opposite of adding is what? It is to subtract. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. The opposite of multiplying is what? Dividing, and vice versa. So when we do the opposite, we're going to think the opposite of subtracting is adding, the opposite of adding is subtracting, the opposite of multiplying is dividing, the opposite of dividing is multiplying. So when I look at this problem right here, okay, I'm looking at what am I doing to the variable? I am adding 7 to the variable. I want to get this variable alone. I want to do what's called isolate it, okay? So I'm going to isolate that variable. What's the opposite of adding 7? Subtracting 7. I'm also going to do what to one side, what I do to the other side, okay? So I'm going to do it to both sides, okay? So that's important to know. So plus 7 minus 7 is opposite, that would be 0. So this just gives me y. Y equals 24 minus 7 over on this side. 24 minus 7 would be 17. So the answer is y equals 17. We can do a quick check of this. 17 plus 7, does that equal 24? It sure does. 17 plus 7, 7 plus 7 is 14, and another 10. That would be 24. Let's take a look at this one right here. So what am I doing to x? I'm adding a negative 3. What's the opposite of adding negative 3? We could say it is subtracting negative 3. But subtracting negative 3, we know a negative negative is a positive. So we're going to actually add 3 to both sides of the equation. Negative 3 plus 3, those go away. That gives you a 0. Bring down this x. X plus 0 is just x. And negative 10 plus 3. 10 minus 3 is 7. But it's a bigger number, is negative, so it is a negative 7. The answer is x equals a negative 7. Looking at this one, I'm looking at what am I doing to the variable? I am timesing or multiplying by 7. What's the opposite of multiplying by 7? Dividing by 7. And I can use a fraction bar to show that. Fraction bar means the same thing as dividing. Okay? So this 7 over 7 is 1. 1 times y is just y. Equals, what's negative 14 divided by 7? 7 goes into 14 2 times. A positive going into a negative. Negative divided by a positive is a negative. So the answer is a negative 2. So quickly, does negative 2 times 7 equal a negative 14? It sure does. So we can check this by doing it in our head or doing it mentally. Okay? And finally, n over 5 equals 12. What does this mean? It means to divide. What's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. So I'm going to multiply, or I'm going to times both sides by 5, right? Okay? So this goes away. These are opposites. They cancel out. N equals 12 times 5. 12 times 5 is 5 times 2 is 10. Put down 0, carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 60. So the answer is 60. Again, you can check each one of these by putting these back in and seeing if they work. Okay? We're going to work on solving one-step equations.